Trading Bitcoin technical analysis. So what we'll do in regards to this video is identify the market structure of Bitcoin, market patterns that we should be paying attention to, key support and resistance levels, as well as candlestick patterns. And lastly, we will try to identify levels at which we may potentially look for buy and sell opportunities. And so guys, let's not waste any further time and get straight into the actual technical analysis. And as I've said, we are at this point in time on the monthly chart, and just looking at the price action on the monthly chart, we can see that we had actually this level over here, which was the previous all-time high, right? And we can see also that this month's candlestick is, or rather has surpassed the previous all-time high. And what this means is that we need to see price at least come back to that level to, at the very least, give it a test before potentially moving up, right? So we need price to come back to around this level. If I can just mark it, just bear with me. There we go, right? Another thing that I also want to point out that is very much important or interesting is that we had this region over here, and within that circle we have what is a double top. And what normally happens in regards to double tops is that a lot of traders and investors actually sell on the second leg and they place their stop losses just above, right? And that actually explains why we saw this entire move over here. I believe that this whole move was actually a stop hunt, as we had a lot of stop losses located there. And stop losses are liquidity, and liquidity represents money that needs to be triggered by the market at one point or another, right? So that explains why we actually saw this entire move. And we can also see that it was a very sharp move to the upside, and it didn't really take a lot of time to get to that point, right? So what this also tells us is that we may potentially see a crash, right? As much as I'm saying that the market may come back to this level and push further up, what may possibly happen is we may see a very big crash. And one of the reasons why I say so is because if we were to pay attention to this area over here, we would see that we actually have, at this point in time, a triple top so far. Yes, this candlestick has not closed as yet, but we may have a situation where we get a rejection at that point and price move further down, right? Especially because if you were to look at this area over here, you would see that we have what is a W structure. And just like with M structures, whenever we have W structures, what happens quite a lot is traders and investors buy at that point and they place their stop losses below. So we have a lot of stop losses located here, right? And it is quite possible that we may see the market from this level move further down to trigger all of those stop losses. In addition to this area over here, we also have another bigger W structure here, and it also has that this section over here, which is the second leg of that W structure, and people buying there and placing their stop losses below, right? So what am I saying? What I'm saying in other words is, because we have stop losses located here as well as here, and we can see that the market is at a very strong level of resistance, and we have, or rather we could possibly get a third rejection here where the market moves down to trigger all of these stop losses, and then down again to trigger the stop losses located here, right? Can you guys see what I'm explaining? I hope you guys can understand that. Anyway, from here, let's head down to the weekly chart and let's see what's happening down there. And here we are on the weekly chart. Let's see what do we see on the weekly chart. On the weekly chart, really I don't see much, but just bear in mind that we spoke about how the market at this point in time is in the process of potentially giving us a third rejection at this point, and we may see a crash of sorts, right? But what do we see on the weekly chart that we should be paying attention to? On the weekly chart, we can also see that we had this area over here, which I would say is also a W structure, right? We had more people buying there, placing their stop losses there, but don't confuse this area over here with this one over here, right? And if I can just zoom out, we have the other bigger W structure over here that I spoke about, right? But for now, I'm just gonna mark that area. In fact, I'm just gonna plot the neckline of that W structure. Just bear with me, right? Because it is now a very strong level of support at this point in time, right? So as much as I'm saying that we may potentially see the market move further down, it is also quite possible, because we have this W structure, that the market may head back here, and at this level we may see the market actually move further up, especially if this level aligns with any key numbers that we have in regards to the Fibonacci retracement tool. So I'm just going to utilize Fibonacci, and let's have a look. We just want to see if the neckline aligns with any key numbers, and there we go. So it doesn't really, so we can just disregard this. And then from here, what I'm going to do is head down to the daily chart, and let's have a look. And just to recap, guys, remember on the weekly chart we spoke about how the market had given us this W structure, which has a neckline here, and we said we may potentially see price come back to this level, and at this level we may then again see price move further up, right? But what do we see on the daily chart? In fact, before we continue on the daily chart, I just want to add my daily channel, so just bear with me, and I would add my daily channel more or less in this manner. Let's have a look. Apologies for the background noise. I'm not at my usual place of recording, but I just hope you can hear what I'm saying. Anyway, there goes my daily channel more or less. And in regards to the daily chart, we can see that the market is starting to lose some steam there. I hope you guys can see that. And it points to the fact that we may potentially start to see price, start to move further down, and maybe to this level where we have the neckline, which is a very strong level of support of this W structure, right? I hope you guys can see that. Anyway, in regards to the daily chart, I really don't see much here. So what I will do is head down to the H4 chart. Now let's have a look. The first thing that I'm gonna do in regards to the H4 chart is add my H4 channel, and let's see how would I add my H4 channel. I would do it more or less in this manner. I'm just gonna actually make this bigger, so just bear with me. I'm just making it smaller for the purposes of just adding these lines or channels, and there we go, right? And we can also see that in regards to the H4 chart, we are still in an upward trending market or an upward trajectory. But as I've said, guys, on the H4 chart, we can already see that the market is starting to lose some steam, right? Where here we're starting to see price move rather sideways, and in fact, if I can just zoom in, we can actually see that the market has already given us a double top of sorts. If I can just draw it, just bear with me. Let's see. It has given us what seems to be a double top, which has a neckline over there, right? So can you guys see that? Just to zoom out a bit, remember, let's go back to the daily chart. Remember, guys, on the bigger time frames, we said that we have this over here, and at that area we may potentially get a rejection, and the price and the market rather may move further down, right? But now that we are on the daily chart, rather, let's go back to the H4 chart. Now that we are on the H4 chart, we can see that indeed we may potentially get a double top of sorts, and the market may potentially, move further down, right? And maybe to this area over here, right? And remember, this area is the neckline of the W structure that we spoke about on the weekly chart, right? But anyway, let's proceed. What else do we see? In fact, before we continue, I just want to add my neckline. Just bear with me. So this would be the neckline of my double top there, right? Another thing that I also want to bring to attention is that as much as I'm saying that we may see price come back to this level, which is where we have the neckline of the W structure, remember that on the bigger time frames, I spoke about that all-time high, which is here, the previous all-time high rather, and I said that we may potentially see price come back to this level, which is a very strong level of support, and at this point we may potentially see the market continue to move further up, right? Another thing that motivates for why we may potentially see the market move further down is that we have this candlestick over here, and what the candlestick is a bearish candlestick with a small body and a very long lower wick, and where that wick ends at the bottom, we have a lot of liquidity there. And as I always say, liquidity is money, and that money needs to be triggered by the market at one point or another, right? So this tells me that chances are we're gonna see price continue to move further down to this level at the very least, right? And at this level is where we will again evaluate and see what happens next. But then again, as much as we have this candlestick over here, which is a liquidity candlestick, we have another one here which is also carrying a lot of liquidity, and we have another one here, if I can just draw it, which is also carrying a lot of liquidity. So there is plenty of scope for the market to move further down to grab all of those liquidity points, right? So what am I saying, guys? Am I saying sell? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we may potentially see the market move further down, But in as far as buy or sell opportunities go at this point, I know that a lot of people are actually, or rather, excuse me, a lot of people already sold on the second leg. Others are waiting for price to close below this neckline sufficiently, and then other people are waiting for price, or rather will wait for price to head back to the neckline, and at the neckline is where they will look for sell opportunities, and especially if the neckline aligns with any key numbers that align with the Fibonacci retracement tool, right? So this would be the first take profit in my very humble opinion, and others again will wait for price to I would say actually close below this neckline, and once price does that, they'll again wait for it to head back to this level, which would then be a very strong level of resistance, and this would be dynamic resistance as well, and at that point is where they will look for further sell opportunities, right? But as far as buy sell opportunities go at this point, I don't see any, but it seems as though we are gonna see price at least move down to this level,